San Francisco is secretly building 71,000 housing units on a sinking island, a radioactive waste site, and mall parking lots. NVIDIA just revealed their wild new headquarters expansion in South Bay, and foreign buyers just spent $56 billion on US homes, with California on top of their list. The Bay Area is transforming faster than ever, and today I'm breaking down every story you need to know about. Let's dive in. So let me start with the biggest story that no one is talking about. San Francisco is building 71,000 housing units right now. And I'm not talking about Mission or the Castro or any of the neighborhoods you actually are thinking of. These units are going on artificial islands, former military bases, and forgotten suburban complexes that most San Francisco residents don't even know exist. Let's put this in perspective. 71,000 units represents a 17% increase in San Francisco's total housing stock. That's 21 years of normal production at current building rates, all happening at once. And here's the kicker. 17,675 of these are affordable units, which is 25% of the pipeline. That's the largest affordable housing push we've seen in the city's history. The state mandate says San Francisco needs to build 82,000 units by 2031. That means they need to approve 28 units every single day for the remainder until that time. Right now, they're only approving about 10. So yeah, there's some pressure there for the city for sure. First up is Treasure Island. They're building 8,000 housing units on the artificial island that was built in 1936 for the World's Fair. The problem? The island is sinking half an inch every year with sea levels rising. The US Geological Survey literally calls it one of the most vulnerable locations in the entire state of California. But construction is already underway. First residents have already moved in as well, and a ferry service launched back in 2022. Then there's Hunters Point Shipyard, where they're planning 10,672 units. This is being built on a Superfund toxic waste site where the Navy tested radioactive materials from nuclear weapons. I don't know if you grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. My dad used to take me fishing here, so I don't know how I feel about this at this point. There was a $250 million eco-fraud scandal where the contractor got caught switching contaminated soil samples with clean dirt. 2 supervisors went to prison, and there's a $27 billion class action lawsuit happening right now. But guess what? 450 homes are already built, with thousands more to come for this site. Park Merced is another crazy one. They're planning 8,900 units on a massive 152-acre complex in southwest San Francisco that most people don't even know exists. It's the largest single ownership apartment complex west of the Mississippi. Built for World War II veterans, it currently houses 9,000 residents, and the plan is to demolish most of it and rebuild. The developer defaulted in 2024, and the whole project is now in receivership. It's been approved since 2011, and 13 years later, there's still no construction happening. And a lot of you might know this one already, but Stonestown Galleria is converting 30 acres of parking lots into 3,500 housing units. The mall will stay open while they build up towers up to 18 stories, and it's actually a perfect metaphor for something that's happening, going from car-centric to housing-focused. So what's good about all of this? Well, they're actually addressing the housing crisis at a massive scale. A quarter of these units are affordable, which is huge. They're creating entire neighborhoods with transit access. The development is finally shifting to western neighborhoods of the city that haven't seen new apartments in over 50 years. But the downsides are pretty significant. You've got environmental disasters everywhere, radioactive contamination, sinking islands, and toxic sites. Also, there's about 20,000 of these approved units just sitting in permit purgatory, not getting built. Multiple developers have defaulted or gone bankrupt. Construction costs are $440 per square foot, which is the highest in the world. And here's something that really bothers me. 0 units are planned for extremely low-income residents, making up nearly 30% of the area's median income. So the most vulnerable people are still left behind. My question for you is this: would you live on Treasure Island knowing it's sinking half an inch every year? Let me know in the comments below. All right, let's talk about AI, because it's reshaping everything in the Bay Area. Bay Area firms just captured 71% of $115 billion in AI funding this year. That's not a typo. 71% of all AI funding in the world is coming here to the Bay Area. And big tech is about to spend another $300 billion on data centers, offices, and jobs. On the positive side, we're seeing massive job creation across the region, although California has the highest unemployment rate right now because of its tech industry as well. Venture capital is surging. There's renewed demand for office space, which honestly we needed after the pandemic. And local businesses are seeing economic momentum. But let's be real about the downsides. These data centers use extreme amounts of energy. Housing pressure is getting even worse in already tight markets. There's a real risk of an AI bubble that could burst. And do you think there's an AI bubble? A lot of people on X, a lot of people on Facebook are thinking the same thing. And the wealth inequality is growing like crazy. So here's what I want to know from you. Do you see this AI boom as Bay Area prosperity or just another bubble waiting to pop? Because I've lived through a few of these cycles growing up here in the Bay Area. And this one feels a little different, but also it feels similar at the same time. All right, let's move on. The Fed just cut rates for the first time in 9 months. The benchmark rate dropped to 4 to 4.25, and they're signaling more cuts to come for the rest of this year. This has direct impact on mortgage rates and housing affordability. The good news is that borrowing costs are cheaper for buyers. We should see boosts for new housing starts, and there's some short-term market relief. But inflation is still elevated, mortgage rates are staying volatile even with the cuts, and there's increasing political pressure on Fed independence, which is honestly kind of concerning. My question is simple. Do you think the rate cut will make Bay Area housing more affordable? Or is it too little too late and prices are far from reach? Because I'm talking to buyers every day and the rates are still making people think twice. Moving on to our next topic, international buyers are back in a big way. They purchased 78,000 US homes for $56 billion. And get this, 36% of Chinese buyers specifically targeted California. Foreign capital is flooding back into Bay Area markets. The positive side is new capital inflows strengthen our market. There's increased luxury demand, and it shows global confidence in the Bay Area's real estate market, which is actually a good sign long term. But for local buyers, this creates more competition. Cash offers from foreign buyers are driving up prices. There are real concerns about speculative investment, and it's becoming an affordability barrier for people who actually want to live and work here. So I want to hear from you. Will foreign money make the Bay Area even harder for locals to buy into? Give me your thoughts in the comments below. All right, let's talk about San Francisco's luxury comeback. Luxury real estate in San Francisco is absolutely coming back. High-end condo sales are surging at 181 Fremont, the Four Seasons, and 1 Stewart Lane. We're seeing individual units selling over $9 million. AI-driven wealth is returning to San Francisco's real estate in a big way. What's positive here is renewed confidence in San Francisco. Tech wealth is reinvesting locally instead of leaving, and these luxury towers are finally gaining traction after years of struggle post-COVID. The flip side is that the wealth divide is widening dramatically. The market is heavily reliant on the tech sector, and there's very limited trickle down to middle market dynamics, which is where most people actually live. My question for you is this the start of a new luxury cycle in San Francisco, or just more tech money making the same moves as they always have? Somewhat related, we're going to talk about tech billionaire mega compounds. Speaking of tech money, Mark Zuckerberg, Sam Altman, and Johnny Ive just spent a combined $250 million on mega estates across Palo Alto, Russian Hill, and Belvedere. They're not just buying one house, they're actually assembling multiple properties into sprawling compounds. On one hand, this high-profile investment signals confidence in the general market. It brings global attention to the Bay Area, and in some cases, they're actually preserving historic properties. But on the other hand, there are real concerns. Neighborhood character is changing. There are displacement worries, and you've got concentrated land ownership in just a few hands, and they're removing inventory from the market that could have gone to multiple families. What are your thoughts on these sprawling billionaire compounds and what it means for the Bay Area's housing market and community character? That's what I want to know from local residents like you. Let's move over to Redwood City and shift gears to some actual construction happening here. Permits just got filed for 32 new townhomes at 1320 Marshall Street in Redwood City. These are 4 buildings with townhouse-style condos. Each unit has 3 bedrooms with a private deck or porch. 5 units are designated for affordable to moderate income households, and they're going with Spanish Revival architecture style, and it's just 8 minutes from downtown Redwood City. What I like about this is it's an infill development using a vacant industrial site. It's bridging the gap between tall apartment buildings and single-family homes, and these are large family-sized units, not tiny studios or one-bedroom apartments. There's an affordable component built in, and it's completely walkable to downtown amenities. Here's my issue though. This site is zoned to allow up to 80 units per acre, and they're building less than half for that. We're in a housing crisis, and they could have produced way more for the site. So my question to you is, we do need more affordable housing for purchase, which this is it. However, they are not filling the space with as much housing as the density allows. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Staying in Redwood City, the Sobrato organization just filed updated plans for a huge mixed-use development at 603 Jefferson and 750 Bradford Street. We're talking about 2 buildings, an 8-story office building at 126 feet tall and 10-story residential building at 109 feet. The total development is 437,000 feet with 186 square feet of office space and 140,000 square feet of housing. They're including parking for 236 cars, 70 bicycles, and the Redwood City School District is keeping their anchor office right here downtown. The positives are it's a mixed-use development in an urban core. The school district stays anchored downtown instead of moving out of it, and it's transit-oriented in terms of its location, and they're modernizing that entire block. On the downside, they're demolishing the existing school district headquarters. The parking ratio is pretty high, which might encourage driving over transit. And I don't see any affordability component mentioned yet in the plans. My question for you is this the kind of mixed-use development that creates vibrant downtowns, or just more offices competing for tenants in a challenging market? All right, moving back to AI, let's talk about NVIDIA's Starbase expansion. The world's most valuable company just revealed renderings for their new headquarters in Santa Clara. It's called NVIDIA Starbase, and it's 324,000 square feet of office that's 113 feet tall and 3 stories. But what makes it crazy is its design. It's got this distinct folded roof that looks like a sheet of paper with skylights and trellises. It's designed by Gensler, and it's going to be an architectural landmark. Here's the part that's controversial though. They're including almost a 3,000 car garage in one building. The entire campus will have parking for 5,711 cars total. They're building a pedestrian bridge spanning the San Tomas Aquino Creek, which is pretty cool. And the top floor is going to be an event space with a work cafe and retail. The positive side is they're consolidating the world's highest valued company right here in the Bay Area. The design is legitimately stunning. They're creating tons of jobs and economic activity, and the pedestrian bridge improves campus connectivity. But here's my issue. A 3,000 car garage in one building? That's absolutely massive. They're actually reducing the overall office space from the original master plan. And this is a super car-centric design despite having transit access nearby. So my question for you is, does NVIDIA's 3,000 car garage make sense for Silicon Valley's future? Or should they be pushing transit and bikes harder? Ultimately, it's their building, it's their lot. They probably get to decide, but what are your thoughts on it? Now let's talk about some housing that's actually opening right now. The Gateway Crossing in Santa Clara just opened its first phase. This was a $290 million development with 725 apartments across 2 7-story buildings. The first building, Alba, has 407 units. The second building, Orlo, has 318 units. Both have ground floor retail, and it's located right between the Santa Clara Caltrain station and the Coleman Highline office campus. When it's fully built out, Gateway Crossing will have 1,565 apartments across 4 buildings, plus a 225-key hotel. The design is actually really thoughtful. It's industrial-inspired, paying homage to the area's railroad heritage. What I like is its transit-oriented development right next to Caltrain. They've got mixed use with retail activating the street level, and it's creating a neighborhood bridge between transit and jobs, which is exactly what we really need. My concerns are that they built a podium garage with space for over 1,000 cars. There's no affordability component mentioned, and this is a high density without proportional transit investment to support it. Here's my question for you. 725 units next to Caltrain. Should developments use this to reduce parking dramatically and push transit more aggressively? Or do people still need cars even with great transit access? All right, moving on to San Mateo County. It just secured $100 million in Prop 4 funding to fight sea level rise. This money is specifically going to protect East Palo Alto and Pacifica. We're talking about shoreline restoration and major climate resilience projects. The positive impact is huge. This is critical infrastructure protection that helps vulnerable communities that would be hit first and hardest. It's long-term climate adaptation, and it's protecting property values for thousands of homeowners. The challenges are that costs are really high with long timelines. And as we know, anything with a long timeline, costs are probably going to continue going up. There's always a risk for uneven distribution of benefits. Which city is it going towards? Which portion of the city needs it the most? And these projects require ongoing maintenance forever, which means ongoing costs for the cities and its residents. My question for you is, how should the Bay Area counties prioritize resilience investments such as sea level rise and investments around these marshes or the ocean? Should they protect wealthy areas that generate tax revenue, or protect vulnerable communities, or obviously equally both? Share your thoughts. All right, let's move on to San Francisco. It just launched a 38-mile trail that loops the entire city. It's called the Roundabout Trail, and it connects the Bayfront Park, Ocean Beach, and a Golden Gate Bridge. It's a unified route for both commuters and recreation. What's amazing about it is it's a huge recreational opportunity. It gives commuters an alternative route. You've got sweeping views of the entire city, and it promotes active transportation, which is desperately needed in San Francisco. The concerns are ongoing maintenance costs, which are not cheap. And there's definitely safety issues in some of these areas, and accessibility is uneven across different neighborhoods. Here's what I want to know from you. If you had one full day to explore the Roundabout Trail, would you walk the whole thing, or would there be a stretch that you look forward to visiting the most? Let me quickly hit you with the 3 retail and dining updates because they all matter for neighborhood value. First, Sprouts Farmers Market is opening November 14th in San Leandro at 1188 East 14th Street. This is expanding their Bay Area footprint with specialty groceries. My question is, are specialty grocers actually changing how Bay Area families shop, or is it just another option for you to choose from? Second, Mountain View's Shoreline Bistro is getting a $15 million renovation. This is a lakeside restaurant, and they're expanding menus and refreshing the entire boathouse. Could this be the peninsula's most underrated escape? I think it might be. Third is Tire Sichuan is opening in San Mateo. It's a global Sichuan chain, and they're drawing 3-hour lines for their sauerkraut fish soup. 3 hours. Would you wait 3 hours for a bowl of soup? And of course, some of the other spicy and nice dishes that they have. Let me know in the comments below. All right, so here's what ties all of these stories together. Real estate. Everything comes back to housing and property values. The AI boom is fueling office demand and creating massive housing pressure. The Fed rate cut is shifting mortgage costs and buyer psychology. Foreign buyers and luxury sales show us how global capital collides with local markets here in the Bay Area. Billionaire compounds highlight the extreme wealth concentration happening right now. And climate funding, trails, grocers, and restaurants all shape livability, which is absolutely the core of neighborhood values throughout the Bay Area. San Francisco is building on sinking islands and toxic sites. NVIDIA is creating architectural landmarks with massive parking garages. The Gateway Crossing is opening hundreds of units next to Caltrain. This is the Bay Area in 2025. Ambitious, controversial, and transforming faster than we've ever seen before. So here's my final question to you. Which of these stories do you think will have the biggest impact in how we actually live in the Bay Area over the next 5 years? I really want to hear your perspective, and if I missed a story over the last 2 weeks, share them in the comments below. And if you need help understanding how any of this affects your real estate decisions, or if you have a real estate question for buying and selling, reach out to me directly at hello@theownteam.com. Hit that subscribe button. We release weekly videos on everything that's going on in the Bay Area. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.